Alright guys, welcome back to the No Switch Fitness YouTube page. Really excited today for today's session, and we have a guest with us.
Olivia Gravengaard here. I am training back with Luke. He's doing a little bit of hamstrings today. I'm doing just full back. What I've really liked about this program is we've been doing a lot of rowing movements, working on back density as well. So I'm kind of excited to go through some of those today. We've been working on a lot of like pull downs in the past, so we're going to do some overhand movements, and we'll be walking through those together and then go over our differences in the session as well. Yeah, and we'll kind of map that out for you guys. I'm only doing a little bit of the extra hamstring work because I need the extra hamstring volume, where for her, like when we look at her physique, the back is devoted to the majority of the volume within her program, so she just has a pull day today. Semi-different setups as far as the split goes, but it's more just adjustments on volume landmarks. So make sure you guys stay tuned. Let us know if you have any questions in the comments, and let's get after it. So single arm underhand cable pull down, 3 sets here, 2 in like the 10 to 12 range, and then a third up in like the 15 rep range. Going to be starting with 105 here. Big fan of using plates to kind of micro progress here, just because the plates get a little bit far away from each other. So instead of making the jump from 100 to 110, we're going to go to 105. In my program currently, I have a Nautilus high pull down, so that puts me at a little bit different angle because the arm is in front of me. I'm able to lean back into it a bit, pull at the angle of the lat fibers. But the way that we're setting this up here, we're still creating that angle, so you can see that the line of pull is still in line with his lat fibers, and it has to do mainly with the positioning on the rack here. So in the seat, we sit at the back of the seat, so it's still a little bit out in front of us, and positioning your torso so you're still pulling at that angle. So as long as you set up correctly, you can still get that same intention even if you don't have the equipment available. The hardest part with a cable is having the external rotation access to really get that elbow up under your hand. So we're setting up in the way that she just said, and then also scooting that butt as far over on the seat to get our shoulder in line with the cable, so that it doesn't require us to externally rotate it quite as much to line everything up. Because of the cable kind of being in the center, it will bias you towards pulling this way if you don't intentionally set yourself up to align everything up, which is why I would give the Nautilus pull the advantage over this if you have it, but you got to adapt depending on the gym you're training in, and we don't have that here. But this is probably the second ideal pull down, and you get a lot out of this. Yeah, definitely. Now that I know how it feels to set up on the Nautilus, I'm able to translate that to here a little bit better. Keep it there, come on. Drive. Yes. Go. Alright guys, so we're going to be doing a lat bias row on this single arm prime. I'd probably make the argument that a single arm cable row is the ideal lat pattern, just from a setup and alignment standpoint, but this has some benefits. The single arm cable row will obviously be heaviest in that shortened position, where with this prime we can set the cam to be a little bit more biased into the lengthened position to a little bit better match the strength curve of the lat to the resistance profile. The only downfall to this is the arm path. It does kind of spread out if you try to do it bilaterally.
which is why you'll actually see us do this unilateral and align to the path where it still keeps that humerus real close to the torso and trying to drive depression. And that's the secondary downfall to this, is the arm path does kind of come up at an incline angle. But you can still bias a lot of lap with correct positioning. And a lot of output because you're braced very well. So while it might not be ideal from a path perspective, it's still a really, really good movement. And we both have single arm cable row on our other day. So it's good to have a differentiation in pattern on our second back day. Kind of see as she does this, she's really creating a counterforce with this foot to really lock this brace in and be able to row in a very lat bias pattern with the abs. Yes, good abs.
So one thing lately I've been able to connect with my lats a lot better, but one thing that I had to really learn was like what full range of motion of the lat is like. And I think a lot of us tend to think as far as we can drive our elbow back, the better. But as soon as you start rotating forward with your shoulder, you're gonna kick up into your trap. So I like this setup with one arm, especially when learning to connect with the lats. Setting up with one arm, slightly leaning into that side to shorten the lat here. And then think about driving low towards your hip. The movement really stops almost when you're in line with your torso. The lat's gonna be pretty short at that point. So just making things unilateral when you have trouble connecting with them can really help. It's not necessarily a regression at all. It may just be a better setup for your frame.
All right guys, so overhand T-bar row next for me. A combo that kind of stole from John. Is going to be an overhand T-bar row into a Kelso shrug, just to kind of get a little bit more mid-trap involvement here at the end. One of the big things I see a lot of times is getting the hand position correct is not often done right. So when you get to the top, what you want to see is you want to see that wrist straight under the elbow, and a lot of times you'll see people are like way too far inside to let that bicep help them with the pull. And the goal here is just to make sure that we get that full protraction on the stretch and retraction hard as we pull, and not letting the chest come too far up off the chest pad. A little bit is fine for like that mid-trap involvement, but we don't want too much. So 2 work sets here, we're gonna get after it.
How's that?
It's rough, dude. My traps are fucking blown. That T-bar row is a killer combo. It's I like this a little bit better than the extreme row for 2 reasons. One, it doesn't drive that internal rotation as you pull like that extreme row does, because the arc on the extreme row as you pull goes this way, where this one goes this way. So it doesn't kind of drive that internal rotation at the top in the contraction. And with this being like a single bar handle and not independent handles, I can do the shrug portion of this without like the independent handles kind of getting off whack and balance. So preferential here. this T-bar does still taper as you pull. It'll still be heaviest on the bottom and kind of taper as you pull up because of the angle at which the bar is at. But it's good to have both in play. I have the extreme row on my other back day, so I use both.
Okay, pronated extreme row here. With the weight setup, it will be heaviest in the stretch position, so it'll taper through the contraction. I tend to feel weakest at the top of the movement, so this one tends to fit me a little bit better in terms of the load setup. And then the way that we have it set up here, body is pretty locked in, driving with high elbows, and keeping the chest rounded over the bench as opposed to arched up throughout the movement.
Yes, good reps. Good reps. Drive it. Good. Come on. Come on. Take it. That's it. It looks good. How'd they feel? It looked really good. So we're doing this as a rear delt pull. So like with a wide grip pull down, you typically want to start it with Terry, so you'll commonly see like arch, elbow kind of tucked, aligned into the Terrys. Here we're doing the opposite. We're moving that torso kind of straight up to bias this arm being this direction, because that rear delt's going to be responsible for that humerus moving like this. And you can really see how well she does it here. She gets to that top point and that elbow's going straight out, following the line of that rear delt down in this way. One of the big things is you'll see at the bottom, hand is pretty much stacked right over the elbow, so minimal bicep involvement here. You really see those rear delts firing really big, which for her is a big portion of the physique we need, so really effective sets here. Such a killer pull, man. My rear delts are fucking pumped.
So rear delts have always been a bit of a struggle for me to connect with, to activate, and to grow, honestly. So it's taken a lot of time and manipulation through different programs, different training blocks with Luke to connect with them. And this movement has been really great for them. But you know, one thing that I've learned is similar to the lat, thinking about what the range of motion is, the rear delt's really short, and you'll see a lot of people think, all right, reverse pec deck is the thing we typically go to for rear delts. People will be throwing their arms behind their body, and we just lose the rear delt in that a lot. So sticking with a movement like this, where the range of motion is a lot shorter, you know, but you really are fully contracting that rear delt, which I've learned is very much like a pinch, just right here above the armpit. As soon as you start to get that retraction of the shoulder blade, you start to kick into the traps. So I really try to isolate that rear delt and limit that trap involvement in order to connect with it, and that's ultimately helped with the development over time. Another thing on these we've been cueing is pulling more through the pinkies, and I really like to think about driving the elbows out as opposed to driving the elbows back. So there are two more cues that have really helped connect with the rear delts on a lot of movements.
Alright, so no hinging for me right now as far as RDL, straight leg, whatever. Squat patterns I'm running take a lot of axial loading, recovery capacity away from me. So running a hip hinge alongside of that typically wrecks me pretty fast. So single-legged hamstring curl first, be addressing more of the shortened position, really trying to jam myself into this knee pad here, and really keep that hip glued to the pad.
The thing I don't want to see though here is people trying to go into the pad and arch the back. You should really try to lock it down so that you don't go into anterior pelvic tilt, which is going to stretch the hamstring from the hip anyways. So the way that I cue it is using this to pull myself into it, so that I'm pulling myself into that down rib cage position, and then I'm hitting it off of the bottom rack as I pull myself in. Big cue here is just driving that quad into the pad, similar to a lying leg curl. So we'll do this first, then go to a seated next to get more of a length and in range.
So I'm doing one arm straight arm pull downs. I've had some kind of straight arm pull down in all of my blocks so far, but this is the first time I've done one arm. I really like it, similar to that one arm machine row. Just switching it to unilateral really helps me mentally connect with the lat, keeping the lat engaged throughout the movement. So thinking about, again, what is the range of motion, not fully releasing and rotating the shoulder forward at the top, keeping the lat engaged, slightly leaning into that side to shorten the lat again, just like the machine, and just pulling down. Thinking again on this one, where's the upper arm ending up? The upper arm needs to drive against your side. Doesn't matter as much where your hand ends up, as long as the line of pull is in line with your lat. So people often make the mistake of trying to get their hand down to their hip, but if you're doing that with your tricep, kind of lose the point of the movement. So really thinking about what is the intention of the movement, driving with that upper arm against the side.
So on this seated ham curl, we're dressing a little bit more in range just because of that hip flex position. What you'll see me on the pad doing is pushing down and into the pad to try to keep the hips moving anytime during the curl. The direction that pad's trying to pull you changes as you do the curl, which is why you don't want to just push this way, because it'll also lead you going like this, which will then tilt your pelvis. So down in that way, kind of a 45 degree, lock it in, line the knee, keep the rotating cam, and then output. It's your best opportunity to output in the ham curl, so take advantage of it.
Hey guys, thanks for watching mine and Olivia's pool day. Hopefully you guys got a lot of takeaways for your sessions, as that's what this content is all about. Make sure that you like, comment, and subscribe to the page. We're gonna be in the comment section answering any questions you guys have for your own sessions, so make sure you drop those down there. And until next time, know all switch to pursuit of results.